The name of what we're talking about, there's an exposition or a treatise. It says verses summarizing the parameters of the 8 consciousnesses. So people have been talking about consciousness, and they think consciousness is just one consciousness, but the Buddha talked about 8 consciousnesses. So this is a very particular school of thought of the Buddhist teaching. The Buddhist teaching has 10 schools of thought, and this is one of the 10 schools of thought, the Yogacara, school. So let's get to some review, some basic, rather casually. I don't want to get into too formal a talk because we only have half an hour. Yogacara, so that's the name. Yogacara, the study of consciousness. And also in the Sanskrit language, it's Vijnana Matrata, but that's Sanskrit, the study of consciousness. So why do we study consciousness? If you just step into a Buddhist temple, you think, okay, how do I worship the Buddha? How do I prostrate? How do I do these ceremonies? That's just a superficial, peripheral understanding of the Buddhist teaching. It's not just worshiping. There's no such thing as not worshiping. You have to study the mind, your own mind. This school of thought of Buddhist teaching is to study human existence in relationship to the mind, the consciousness. Don't you have to understand how you think? Don't you have to understand thoughts and words and actions and personalities? How do they relate to each other? How do we understand life? What is existence? So what's the purpose of studying consciousness? What's the purpose of knowing yourself? Yogacara is meant to be applied as a meditative practice. So it is a kind of meditation, a knowledge to thoroughly understand consciousness. In the Sanskrit language, it's Vijnana. In the Pali language, it's Vijnana. The consciousness, the thinking. The final goal is the complete transformation of consciousness into wisdom. Consciousness, in our consciousness, is tainted consciousness. When we say tainted consciousness, it's polluted consciousness. We have been using our polluted consciousness, not the pure consciousness. It's the polluted consciousness that we have been applying in our daily life. So we want to transform the polluted consciousness into unpolluted purity, into wisdom. And in the perfect clarity of enlightenment, there is total awareness and complete understanding which subsumes the I of the ego differentiated self. In the perfection of enlightenment, there is no samsara and no suffering. It is nirvana. There's so much terminology in there already. For people who come here for the first time, you probably may not know what we're talking about. In the perfect clarity of enlightenment, what is enlightenment? There is total awareness and complete understanding. Do we have total awareness of ourselves? Are we peacefully and rationally aware of ourselves? People say, yes, I have my mind, of course I'm aware of everything. But if you're aware, truly aware, how come you get into emotional conflict? How do you get into rage, wrath, jealousy, hatred, anger, greediness? How do you get in all those? If you're totally, purely aware of that, do you know that's not good for you? So you're not aware. You're not total in awareness. You just do as your feelings control you how to do it. So, but if in the study of consciousness, then you know how to create this awareness in you. If you're aware of what you're doing, wonders come. If the student aware of what he's listening, what he's learning, he becomes an A student. If a worker is totally aware of how and why he can employ and how to do the job properly, he's a number one employer. So you have to have this full enlightened awareness and complete understandings. Not just of your own self-awareness, you have a complete understanding of existence. All the mysteries of existence you have to tackle, you have to try to comprehend, you have to try to understand, which subsumes the I of the ego-differentiated self. Why do we have to subsume the I? Why do we have this I, me, this I, me syndrome, this I, me egoistic syndrome? Why do we have an ego? Why do we have to exaggerate this ego? Why do I have to protect this ego? Why do I have self-love, self-conceit, self-arrogance? Why do I have all these? Why do I have a self? What is this quote-unquote entity? We call it the self. Is there a self? So all these, we study all these in the Buddhist teaching. Not about just blind faith and blind worshiping, not just that. That's just the peripheral of it. So in the perfection of enlightenment, there is no samsara. Samsara is a Sanskrit word meaning rebirth. Somebody call it reincarnation. We have been reborn life after life. The Buddhist teaching, the Buddha says that the time dimension is 3, past, present, and future. The past is not just of yesterday, or the day, or the year before, or the day when you were born. The past is the horizon, the vista of the past extended to previous lives. Rebirth, we call it. Some people may puzzle about it, and some people may even ask, "What do you have scientific proof about rebirth?" All these we already have gotten into them, and this is something that no one on earth can get an answer to. It's just like eggs or chicken, which come first? Thoughts or language, which comes first? That kind of a loop. Anyway, we already have spent a lot of time on that, so we're not going to do any more about this. So that is, if you understand yourself, if you completely get enlightenment, there's no more samsara, no more rebirth. And so for some people who don't understand the Buddhist teaching, he said, "Oh, poor, I don't have any rebirth. So so when I die, I don't have anything, so I need a rebirth." They think they need a rebirth because not having a rebirth means annihilation. I have nothing. But it's exactly because of this rebirth that we get into the loop of karmic energy, that we get sufferings and mental afflictions and emotions. But anyway, we get deep into that. We have been getting very deep into that, and this is just a review. So if you understand consciousness, if you how to transform your polluted consciousness into pure wisdom, then you can use this wisdom to arrive at nirvana, to arrive at enlightenment. And there will be no samsara. Why did the Buddha, whose name was Siddhartha Gautama, in India 2,600 years ago, he was the prince who was going to succeed the king as the king later. But he gave up all these luxuries, gave up all this fame and status and reputations. He gave up all these in pursuit of something. In pursuit of something that would change the world. In pursuit of something that would bring methods to transcend life and death, so that we go beyond life and death. So there's no samsara and no suffering, and it is called nirvana. Nirvana is a Sanskrit word, and it contains a lot of meaning into it. What is near? What is vana? Vana is motion. Near is no more motion. No more mind polluted motion. No more. It's all one complete peacefulness, stillness of mind, tranquility of mind. No more movement, no more motion. So this is the purpose of studying consciousness. So if you're bored by it, because there's a lot of terminology in what we've been studying, you have to enlighten yourself by saying, yes, I have to study that in detail. It's quite boring at times because there's so much terminology. Do you know how much terminology we have? It's a lot. But I don't need to show you all the terminology or the Sanskrit words and all that, but that's part of the learning. So this is the purpose of studying the Buddhist teaching. How many first-time comers are there today? So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's a few. Probably without underestimating your ability to comprehend, you missed all these classes. You may not know, what we're talking about. So why don't I changed my mind when I thought I do a review, but I said maybe you're coming here for meditation. You're coming here to listen to a half an hour of consciousness. And Yogacara is meant to be applied as a meditative practice. And then you say, how good is meditation? What are the benefits of meditation? How does Yogacara benefit me? You always want to say, how does it help me? How does it benefit me? Maybe I'll just stick in some old files and give you a list. Inexhaustible. The list is too long, but just to give you whatever I can put on a slide about meditation. The benefits of meditation: to reduce stress. Do you have stress? Now, what I'm talking about is related to Yogacara. Yogacara helps you to practice, helps you to understand the mind. If you understand the mind, you practice meditation, it can reduce your stress. And of course, what is stress? We've got to talk about it. To free oneself from emotions such as depression, fear, worry, anxiety, anger, greediness, jealousy, hatred, wrath, you name them. Emotions, we call them. To improve health, slow down your heart rate, improve blood circulation, lower your blood pressure, enhance your immune system. Is that enough? You didn't waste your time this morning. You've been meditating for half an hour. You didn't waste your time. To increase focus and memory retention. How does that help? Any students in here? If you can focus, if you have memory retention ability, you think you will be a failed student? You'll be A-class students if you have good memory and good focus. You can focus on lectures at universities. You can focus on the teacher's teaching. You can have good retention of memory. How can you write in exams? In Japan, in many schools, the first session for high school students is not just to start the day with a class. They start the day with a short period of meditation. They sit in meditation. And I've been to Japan. I observed some of those. Some of the schools start the day by what? Cleaning. They don't hire janitors in Japan, The students do their janitorial work. Every morning they scrub everything, they clean everything, and they don't need any janitors. Not like any other places that people put their gums under the table and then they do all sorts of dirty things at school, writing languages on walls. What do you call that? Graffiti? What do you call that? Huh? Graffitis in the washrooms. In Japan, I'm amazed. They don't hire any janitors. The students do all the janitorial service. They know that they can't stick their gum under the table because they got to clean it later. So Japan is one of the cleanest countries in the world on the surface. How about the mind? I don't know. All minds are not the same. Okay, to improve focus and memory retention, to improve cognitive skills and creativity. What are cognitive skills? Your rationalization, your intellectualization, your decision making, your lateral thinking, your creativity. You know why? Because you're training the right side of the mind, the spiritual side of the mind, which is responsible for creativity. You're training, the mind is basically in three parts, The brain, the mind is not the brain, The brain is the comprehensible part, the part that you can actually see. The mind is not an entity, Don't say that I have a mind, You have a brain, you may not have a mind. The mind is nowhere to be found. The mind is not an entity. You can't find the mind, but you can find the brain. So what's the brain composed of usually? I'm not a biologist, but I those biologists told me that, doctors told me that mind's in three parts. The cerebral cortex, which is the front part, the limbic system, the second part, and then the spinal cord, the three important parts. The cerebral cortex is what? It's the learning brain. That learning brain is responsible for cognitive skills. The learning brain, the cerebral cortex. And then there's also a limbic system, part of the brain, which is highly connected to what they call, I forgot that name, amygdala, which is responsible for the emotion part of the brain. And then there's, of course, the function part of the brain, which is the spinal cord, which connects to the brain. And if you can improve your meditation, you improve the three parts of the brain. Next, to improve your mood and emotional intelligence. Mood is different from particular mental emotions. Mood is a continuity. Mental afflictions can outburst at one time and then get quiet and outburst at one time. You get mad, you get jealous. But a mood is sort of a continuity of your own personality that maintains a certain mood. It improves your moods. And emotional intelligence, what do usually people call it, emotional intelligence? Your EQ, other than IQ that we have. I used to know that there's only an EQ, an IQ, and then suddenly, I don't know how many years ago, they taught of an EQ. An EQ is your emotional intelligence on your ability to understand not only of your own emotions, the emotions of others. If your EQ is high, that means you're a good public relations guy. What is your EQ? I don't know. So to increase confidence and happiness, to increase wisdom and tranquility of mind, and finally, to increase samadhi and prajna. Samadhi is what? Focus or concentration. And prajna is wisdom. Leading the practitioner towards the path of enlightenment, and finally ending rebirth of life and death, reaching nirvana, which is the Buddhahood. So these are the benefits of meditation. Are they enough for you to come here? Are they good enough for you? Have you realized a little bit of any of these that we mentioned in here? Not just by coming up for half an hour on one sitting. You have to practice meditation continuously in order to realize those benefits. It's not a fast food. It's not a fast food. No fast food in this. It's not a McDonald's approach of meditation. No, there's no fast food. You have to do it on a regular basis. I don't know, maybe half an hour or 1 hour or 15 minutes. You have to maintain a regular pattern in practicing this. And maintaining that pattern of meditation is itself a training for patience and tolerance and habitualizations of certain personality. If you can maintain half an hour every day doing the same thing every day, which is beneficial to you, you build up a personality of perseverance and tolerance. Can you do that? Okay, these are the benefits of meditation. And I'm looking at the clock, there's another 10 minutes to go, and I don't want to go into anything that is too much of terminology. So let's go into something like this. How do emotions arise? Because when we talk about meditation, Yogacara, or the study of consciousness, we're talking about how, or meditation, we're talking about how we can overcome emotions. Then how do emotions arise? So you have to analyze how they get arise. Don't you have to know why you get mad, you get jealous, you get addicted to drugs, alcohol, you get addicted to, I don't know, lust, I don't know, whatever you can name it. Emotions arise because of two factors, main factors. Externality and internalities. External factors and internal factors. Externally, environmental stimulation to our perception and cognition. We always get stimulated by externalities. But if you really look at it with a consciousness point of view, externalities are not stimulations. You induce these stimulations to stimulate you. How can something out there per se by itself stimulate you? They don't have that power to stimulate you. But you create that images in your mind to let that stimulate you. Do you agree or not? Any disagreement? You think a porno by itself stimulates you? It's dead. It's just some material. It's just a chip. It's just somebody shoots something for you to see. It itself, it's a dead material. But you have that mind to let it stimulate you. So the thought is not in there, it's in you. That's what we call consciousness only, representations then only, the mind only. You understand that thinking? Don't blame externalities for what you have done. Demands and expectation on us. Because of demands and expectations, sometimes it creates emotions. Your dad, your mom expects you to be this, and you cannot. Your wife, your husbands, your jobs. Changeable and unpredictable circumstances. Because everything is changeable, you feel what? You feel insecure. Because it changes, unpredictable. You have insecurities. You have uncertainties in you. This insecurity, this uncertainty would give rise to internal what? Internal mental proliferation, so that you will breed up all these emotions. Next, social unrest. Sometimes externalities, political and economic social unrest would bring you the emotions, because it, of course, as I said before, they themselves per se, they don't have that power. You have that power to absorb. Social unrest. Say if we've gone through economic crisis, people in a poor country, or in a political crisis in a certain country where they have the coup d'etat, or what do you call that, whatever you call that, then you don't feel, you feel suppressed, you feel You feel in a danger situations. Then you become very emotional. Or even in the classroom's atmosphere, in a family atmosphere, that you feel unrest. Social norms and values would give certain norms and values would give rise to you having that kind of emotions in you. It sounds as if we're taking a course of Psychology 100 or Society or Sociology 200. But that's what it is. The Buddhist teaching is all related to sociology, to psychology, to biology, to everything, philosophy. How about internalities? Internal. Internal, we split it into two parts, physiological and mental. Who am I? Who am I internally? Who am I? Externally is for external stimulations. Who am I internally? I am what? Who am I? I'm an organism, right? I'm an organism. This organism has a physiological, biochemical system, a structure, which is my body. I have my heart, my spleen, my kidney, my skull, my eyes, and all that. Physiological. I'm an organism. I have a physiological system, a physiological structure. And then I also have a mental. Not just physiological. If I just have the physiological without a mental, I'm not an organism. So brain signals the glands which increase adrenaline and cortisol and heartbeat, perspiration and blood pressure, increase muscles, become tense, immune system decreases. If you have emotions, all these physiological functions would change. Make sure you don't get emotional. Because if you're too emotional, that lowers your immune system. Your muscles become tense, your heartbeat becomes faster, and the brain will signal glands which increase adrenaline and cortisol, which affects everything. So imagine if you come here every Saturday and listen to a lecture like this, can you improve your lifestyle? Of course you can. That's the Buddhist teaching. Now I'm talking about this physiological structure. Yes, there's a physiological structure, but then if emotions arise, what happened to your physiological structure? That's what happened. Mentally, mental process of perception, collision, mental interaction with the 7 and 8 consciousnesses, arousal of emotions such as anger, fear, depression, frustration, grief, despair, and whatever. And how do emotions arise? Because there's physiological change in you. There's emotional, mental change in you. A combination of that. Plus the externalities that give rise to all these emotions. In order to heal a depression, you need to know how do they get arise. I don't know, there's so many people suffer from depressions, anxieties, and worries these days. And many of them can Google for information. But you as a family member, usually the people who suffer from depression would say, don't just give me all these theories. I know all of them. What I need is, I need your support. I need you to listen to me. I need you to be with me. Not just giving all this, all this information that I can get on Google. So as a family members who have people suffer from depression, you need to listen. You need to support. You need to stay with them. Not just giving them all the theories that you can take out from Google about how a depression comes up. Just this advice would change some people's life. Spend your time with them. So what are emotions? What are emotions exactly? Everyone experiences emotions. The magnitude of emotions varies from person to person because of differences in subjective feelings, physiological response, and expressive behavior. Generally, emotions can be classified into two kinds of emotions. Two kinds of emotions. You have unwholesome emotions and wholesome emotions. Emotion is not just bad emotions, unwholesome emotions. Sometimes you feel love, you express your love, your compassion, your sentimentality. You express good emotions sometimes. But generally, we have more unwholesome than wholesome emotions. That's the problem. So what are unwholesome emotions? Greediness, lust, despair, infatuation, anger, rage, hostility, hate, resentment, dislike, ignorance, like depression, sadness, despair, anxiety, helplessness, self-abasement, self-degradation, a self-denial. You think you're no good for anybody. All of a sudden, you sink into your despair. I'm no good for anything. I don't have a value. All of a sudden, people think that way. I don't have a value anymore. Shame, guilt, panic, phobia, worry, nervousness, insecurity. And there are some wholesome functions too. Joy, happiness, cheerfulness, jubilations, elations, ecstasy, etc., etc. Sometimes we're optimistic, we have pride, sense of dignity, which is different from arrogance. It's important to have pride as a sense of dignity in you, but not arrogance. Love, caring, tenderness, compassion. So these are some of the emotions. All these are mentioned in the Buddhist teaching, except they are mentioned in more details. I'm just using modern psychology to change, to introduce some new words into it. Actually, the Buddhist teaching mentioned more emotions than these. 51 of these concomitant mental functions that we studied, previously. 51 concomitant mental functions that we talk about. In order to get rid of emotions, to heal depressions and anxiety, you need to know, who am I? Who are you? Who am I? Why do I come to this world? Why am I what I am today? All this in-depth analysis of why you are here